okay, the program works. It's working in Riverside. It's going to work in Hemet. The question is, what happens to these individuals who need the help and who the police officer and the worker find? I mean, what happens to them? I mean, do we have something in place that after the initial contact that there is a facility that they can go to? Are they put in the custody of their families? What happens then? Because the idea is this is fantastic, but then what happens?
Yeah, so this person that we're putting with the police also have supervisors that supervise them, and we also have crisis teams. We have grant-funded crisis teams that are out in the community, the CREST team and the REACH team that are already out in the community. And they're resource experts, so if need be, we get them to help too. So there's several things that could happen. If somebody, which we try not to put people in the hospital, but if somebody absolutely needs to be in the hospital, they're in a dangerous situation right now, then we can get them to ETS, which is our emergency psychiatric hospital in the city of Riverside. We also have one out in Indio, but it's a bit far from here, but need be, we can do that too. We've also, in addition to these teams and the grant-funded teams, we've started some crisis stabilization units. There's going to be 3 in the county. There's going to be one that's open in Palm Springs, and it's just opened a few months ago. There's one in Riverside that's been open about a year and a half. And then there's going to be one in Paris that's going to open in July. So that'll be the closest one to here. There'll be 12, for lack of a better word, beds. They're really recliners. But there'll be 12 recliners there where we could bring somebody who's in crisis there. It's not a hospital. It's basically a 24-hour outpatient clinic where the person can stay for up to 23 hours and 59 minutes, not on a hold. They're there to get services while they're there. We wrap all kinds of services around them. And then within the next day of leaving the crisis unit or an encounter with us, they're to get an appointment at one of the county clinics, and then they're able to see, get an orientation, an intake, and then from there they decide what services they need. If somebody goes to the hospital, they're usually there for several days. Now, even though it's a 72-hour hold, it doesn't mean they're there for 72 hours, but that's typical. And then from there, they wrap services around them. So when they come out of the hospital, they're assigned to a clinic, they're assigned to case managers, and they get services wrapped around them. The Department of Behavioral Health has many different levels of services that we can offer somebody. So it just depends on the person and the situation and what we can offer. The other thing is typically the county, most of the people that we see in our county clinics are people that have Medi-Cal, right? But we also see people who don't have insurance. But these teams, the CREST team, the REACH team, and the police liaison team, will see anybody regardless of their ability to pay or regardless of what insurance they have. So this is for everyone in the community.
Okay.
The CSUs will be the same way. It's for everybody in the community.
Thank you.
And then there's other services that we're adding too that I'll come back and talk to you about some other time when we're ready to open those. So. All right.
Okay.
They won't be here in the city, though. They'll be other places. All right. Aaron, did you have anything you want to add? Or?
Please come to the microphone so we can get it on recording.
Dr. Aaron Parks.
Mayor, yeah, I just wanted to say that, Dr. Verbeck was talking about other resources that are available. What are you going to do with these folks? Our clinic is going to have special time set away with clinical clinicians that are going to be ready to see these folks whenever they bring them in, within our operating hours.
And your clinic is in?
650 North State Street.
Okay. All right. That's what I wanted to hear. Okay. Questions from council? Long overdue, absolutely. Anyone in the audience want to talk to this? We have, okay, line them up.
I don't have a question, but I've got a comment real quick. It's that it is long overdue, and I remember that we had a program like this, similar to this, down in Chula Vista that we used with San Diego County.
Okay, if we can get all the speakers, and please call them. Yes. Come around and sign up.
Just like to give my quick history from the other side of the coin. I've suffered 30 years of mental illness, and I've been 5150 3 times. In my early years, I had 3 encounters with law enforcement, which ended up in my being beaten. And I don't blame them for that. I blame my own behavior. But I really commend that Chief Brown and his police department has advanced to the point where they're looking at this at a mental illness problem rather than a criminal problem, and taking the steps to find better solutions for this. I asked the council to approve the expenditures for the Joint Crisis Intervention Team. I think that's an excellent idea. And in my experience, the 5150 has never helped me. What I would need was a 24-hour period just to calm down, to get past my immediate problem, settle down, and get back with the world. And this would help, I think, a number of people a great deal. So thank you for hearing me.
Thank you very much. The next speaker. Just introduce yourself, please.
Hi, my name is Rhonda Thompson. I've had bipolar disorder for 23 years. I've had a couple of experiences I wanted to share with you. One was in Hemet in December 2015, and I was having a manic episode because I was on a high dose of prednisone because I had a cough that they couldn't get rid of. I know my bipolar. I've done this before. The police were called to my house because I missed a urology appointment. And the police officer decided that I was a danger to myself because I thought that I might have a heart attack. My heart was just pounding fast, that's all. And so instead of referring me to the medical ER, he took me in for a 5150. So I was 3 days through ETS and that whole system. That absolutely was not needed. I didn't even need to go to the ER, but if anything, a medical referral would have been much more appropriate to that. 3 days is very unpleasant. The second experience was with a friend of mine who I felt was a danger to herself. I called the police. She was throwing things, and the police said, "Oh, we can't do anything about it," and they pretty much left right away. And I said, "Okay." I was very, upset, frustrated, and didn't know what to do. Again, the same thing happened weeks later, and I called the police again, and the same thing. They said, "Nope, there's nothing we can do." But this time, they actually stopped and talked to me and explained why they couldn't do anything. And there are certain criteria that they look for. My friend did not meet that. I was also given some extra resources. I'm a facilitator for Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance and involved with NAMI. So I was able to go to the family-to-family program and got more education. So now there actually was a third time my friend needed to be hospitalized, but that was appropriate. Now, when there's a problem, I know exactly what to do, which is in this case, calm down, get away from the situation, and my friend will be able to ask for help when she needs it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Brenda?
Mayor Krupa, Hemet City Council, my name is Brenda Scott. I'm with NAMI, Mount San Jacinto Executive Director. But I'm also a family member, and I want to share a little bit of my experience with you. I want to thank Chief Brown, first of all, and the department for reaching out to the Department of Behavioral Health to be in the process of addressing the mental health concerns in our city. Ever since the hospitals began closing in the 60s and the 70s, the care for people who have mental health conditions has dwindled. After the hospitals closed, there were homeless people outside of mental hospitals that used to be in the hospitals, and families had no place to put their loved ones. My mother was in one of these hospitals. She was in Patton when I was a child, and when my mother left the hospital, there was no help for her, and my mother took her life when I was 14 years old. Since then, fast forward to 2017, many of our community members can't get the help they need. Many of them will become homeless, and many will become incarcerated. Our jails have begun to fill. They're full. Our prisons have filled, and this is what we do to people who have mental health conditions. They end up in our jails, and they end up homeless. And there's many reasons for that. A lot of it is a lack of education on the part of people in our communities to realize that these are health conditions, that they can be treated like any other illness. This is a condition that is treatable. And because of the stigma that's associated with it, people don't want to talk about it. We have education programs through NAMI. We have a family-to-family class that Rhonda took, and many people in Hemet have learned a lot about how to be able to support their relative and to be able to speak maybe more calmly or get them the help that they need. And it's so frustrating when a family first calls us and they don't know what to do, and then it's such a neat process to watch them take the class and realize how much they can actually support their relative. So I'm really very hopeful that the City Council will pass this, and I just want to thank you for having this on the agenda and all your work. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Next speaker.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. My brother suffers
Can you
from...
introduce yourself?
Oh, my name is Tammy Radomski,
Hi, Tammy.
and I've lived in Hemet now for going on 4 years, and my brother suffers from mental health. And it's really important that the police do have this program, because when you go out to such a situation, you not only endanger the person's life who is suffering from this crisis or episode, but also the officers. So with that education and with that training, it can diffuse a lot of situations. But my concern is that it's great that they have the clinic, but I'd like to take a good idea and expand on that, because you don't schedule a crisis or an intervention, 20 between regular business hours. It can happen at any time. So my suggestion, and what I would like to see with some of the Measure U monies that we will soon be collecting, is that they expand it to 24-hour service. And a way to accomplish this is even if they have to share a team between the two cities, between Riverside and Hemet. And also, I don't know what happened. I know I read in the paper, and I was saddened to hear about the community service officer with the Hemet Police Department, but I haven't heard anything about her replacement. And I think that that is such a valuable way to outreach to the community. I heard talk about a liaison officer to work with the families, but I wonder if that community service officer, if that wouldn't also support the same issue. So thank you.
Thank you, Tammy. Good comments. Okay, Council, any questions for our police chief?
There's a lot of things I'm proud of you for, but this
is good.
now is huge. So thank you for taking the steps to make this happen. And I'd like to be the first to
Make the motion.
make the motion.
You got it. Second. And Carly seconds. Please vote. And that passes 4-0.
Great job.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Dr. Verbeck. And thank you, all of you. We are definitely looking forward to getting this program up and running and helping the people who need help.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
And Councilmember Wright, while I appreciate the accolades, I really have to turn to the members of the community, particularly Brenda Scott, Dr. Verbeck, and others who have encouraged us along this way. The realization is police officers are not the best provider of that initial assessment, and we've got to do better, and the fact is we'll come out with better outcomes with this. Some good news is your item number 28. Obvious question is, what's this going to cost? Again, Dr. Verbeck's leadership at the Behavioral Health Department has provided a full-time resource to us. We will be, and they've agreed to be flexible on the hours depending on the period of highest need. So that was a very pointed comment that we've considered. But training, equipment, and a vehicle are things that we knew would need to be covered. We were very fortunate to receive a grant from the California Board of State and Community Corrections to specifically address better outcomes in dealing with youth at risk, which we certainly will, our homeless population, which we certainly will. And so the proposal before you tonight is to first accept the grant in the amount of $69,197.58 and authorize the Finance Department to establish revenue and expenditure accounts for the grant activity and to approve and allocate expenditure budgets for the purpose of purchasing one fully equipped vehicle for this team to operate in. Some of the best practices that we've learned from Riverside is a traditional black and white police car is not always the best to be rolling into these, so we heard that loud and clear. We will purchase a vehicle that's not as recognizable and potentially intimidating, and then to purchase the safety equipment that will be required for the behavioral health professional who will be joining our team. So those are our requests tonight. In terms of the origin of this grant, I do need to let you know this is a grant that was available for 1 year only, so it's a one-time grant. We thought it was important not to ask you to fund any ongoing expenses, so this will be a one-time expenditure to fully fund this team and get it off the ground as quickly as we can. And we're not asking for an additional personnel for this. It's important enough to us to make sure that we use existing personnel within our budget, people who are here currently. And we'll be advertising and promoting this position within the department as soon as you give us the authorization to do so, hopefully tonight.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions for Dave? Seeing none, do I have a motion?
Move to approve it.
Okay. And we have a motion and a second. Please vote. That passes 4-0. And we have number 30. Chief?
Thank you. One last item here. And again, really in recognition to the families and the grieving friends of the people who have been victims of violent crime in the city of Hemet. One of the things that we know is that financial incentives and assurance of anonymity may encourage reluctant or fearful citizens who have witnessed or have information about a crime to report that information to law enforcement. There's a widely accepted principle in criminal investigations that someone other than the criminal, the person who committed the crime, has information that could solve nearly every crime that's committed. Hemet police investigators operate every case under the assumption that, and we have an excellent track record in garnering cooperation from potential witnesses or holders of criminal information within the community. However, there are a number of violent crimes that are unsolved in this community. You've heard about many of them in recent weeks. We have a great relationship with Crime Stoppers Plus. It's a actually an international organization that is very good at guaranteeing anonymity for people who have tips on open and active investigations. What we're asking you to do tonight is just give us the authorization to offer up to $10,000 for information leading to the arrest and conviction of any number of perpetrators of violent crime. If you authorize that, we are prepared to launch in the very near future a website that will list those unsolved crimes that we need and are severely in need of information in order to solve. Again, we believe, and one of the investigative principles that we abide by is that someone out there has information in every one of these cases that's been talked about here tonight, and our investigators desperately want to get to that information. We believe that this, putting some teeth behind the Crime Stoppers relationship and giving us the authority to offer those rewards may, in fact, encourage people to come forward in any number of these crimes and certainly other violent crimes that are still unsolved in our community. So we're not asking you to appropriate funds. We're asking you to give us the authority to offer the reward, and in the event that we are in a position where we have a qualifying member of the community, we'll come back to you for the allocation, and we'll certainly work with you to find those dollars within our limited budget.
Thank you. Any questions or comments for the chief?
I had one question that was posed to me today, reference this, is that nowhere in here does it list a cap on the, it's got the $10,000 per, up to $10,000 per incident or per crime, but what's the cap on for a whole fiscal year on what you're looking at?
We would not recommend a cap. I mean, I know what the council and the community believes is that you can't put a price tag on any of what you've heard from this podium and any of what any one of us has experienced with loved ones who've been the victims of violent crimes or ourselves been the victims. So I would not propose a cap, council member. I would propose that you let us work within our discretion, and to come back to you with any a qualifying allocation that we see fit, and that results in an arrest and a conviction in a number of crimes. And we're not just talking about homicide here. We're talking about serious violent crime that's occurred in our community and still goes unsolved today. We're very positive and encouraged by the idea that we could offer this and garner those tips that we know are out there, and just encourage people to come forward.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? What is your pleasure?
I will move that we approve the authorization to offer crime tip rewards.
Second that. Bonnie or Curly, please vote. Push a button. And that passes 4-0. That's absolutely awesome. Thank you very much, Chief. I feel we are building some of the foundation that's going to be necessary to go forward.
Indeed.
So thank you so much. At this time, we're going to take a 5-minute recess, and then we'll go into our council reports. But I would urge you not to leave, because we have some very good department reports that are going to be coming up this evening. So 5 minutes. You can put that on a timer, and I'll be back. Hello? Now I'm on. Okay, we will go on to council reports and comments. Councilmember Brown is not here, so Councilmember Meyer, do you have anything to report? Carly, do you have anything to report? No, I don't. Councilmember Wright.
Yes, just a few things. I want to remind everyone that at WRCOG, the Nexus study for the TUMP Nexus study is still out for review until April 14th. So if you have any comments, that would be great if we could collectively provide them. Also, the Homeless Task Force met yesterday, and it was a very, very productive meeting. Kind of ties in with what happened tonight, and there is a plan, and we're moving forward, and I look forward to the day when we can publicly announce what we are doing in that environment. Also, Skate Plaza Task Force met. I'm not sure if it met before our...
We didn't report out at the last meeting.
So we've had 3 presentations from skate park developers, and also we were lucky enough to have our city manager who worked on skate parks in planning in city of Palm Desert and has a couple of experiences with other cities in their skate parks. So he gave us his overview and opinion. And so we're moving forward, and hopefully one day we can get that skate park in this community. So something long overdue, and certainly something that the youth needs in this community. That's it.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
Just a couple things that I didn't report out on at our last council meeting. First, at the RCA, the Regional Conservation Authority meeting we had, there was a vote to increase the developer fees, and I did vote no, and I was able to get 5 other cities to vote no on that, plus our supervisor voted no. So that was positive that they saw that raising fees when we're trying to get development started doesn't help. But and then secondly was I went to with Bonnie and our city manager. Went to opening day for Hemet Youth Baseball, and that was great, seeing all those kids out there getting ready to start their baseball season. And I was very fortunate and actually very blessed to be able to throw out the first pitch, so that was very exciting. Strike. Oh, and then Hemet Sports, we went to the grand opening for that. They just opened up over in the Walmart's Page Plaza, Walmart Center, next to Verizon. So, and we actually sent them out to the opening day for Hemet Youth Baseball. So,
yeah.
And what did I do this morning?
What did you do in here this morning? Come on,
oh, yeah.
Carly.
Yeah, this morning. So, because she told me I had to turn in my badge. So, this morning we had a swearing-in ceremony for one of our newest police officers, and then also recognized 3 new dispatchers for our dispatch center.
Very good.
So that was this morning.
Thank you. Yes. Okay. Let's see. On the Ramona Bowl, the Lord Mayor of the City of Westminster, England, came up there last Friday and issued the formal invitation to the Ramona Bowl All-Star Band to march in the New Year's Day Parade in London on January 1, 2019. Congresswoman Carly Meyer, Councilmember Carly Meyer, and Mayor Pro Tem Michael Percival were up there with me, as was our county supervisor and Alonzo Ledesma and Russ Utz from San Jacinto. So it was a nice afternoon, and they were very impressed with our weather, and that they were going back to jolly old wet London when they left us on Friday. RTA, we celebrated the 40th anniversary of RTA about a week and a half ago. They're quite an organization. They honored, they have 400 or 500 employees, and they were honoring their employees with longevity. 2 of them, actually, one was hired the day RTA started 40 years ago, and he is still there. and the other celebrates his 40th anniversary in July. And then we kind of went down the line, and there must have been about 50 employees who have 20 and more years with RTA, which I thought was really kind of an accomplishment in this day and age. Let's see. Speaking of throwing out first pitches, I was at the opening for the Little League out at Diamond Valley Lake last weekend and threw out the first pitch there, and my shoulder's been bugging me ever since.
It was a fastball.
Maybe that's what's going on right now because it hurts. League of Cities, this morning I was in Riverside for the first meeting of our legislative committee, and we have policy committee meetings for the League of Cities this Thursday and Friday in Ontario, and we had about 9 or 10 pages, actually 13 pages, of bills that are coming out of in Sacramento. And as we were going through them, the overwhelming response from the 10 or 12 people that were sitting around the table, and they were all elected officials from Riverside County, was oppose. These are redundant. They're unfunded mandates. They're either on the books or, we don't need additional things. There are a few that are really good, but the majority of them are just oppose. So I will get a copy of this to all council members, and maybe we can post some of the more important ones that we'll be looking at on Facebook or on our website, because there's really some harmful bills that are coming out in Sacramento, and a lot of them are kind of crazy, like mandatory diaper changing stations, and outlining how often these things have to be cleaned, and I'm thinking, really? And it's because men now take care of babies. I'm going, really? Okay. But it's a mandate. It's an unfunded mandate. So some of these things, and I appreciate the fact that men are taking care of babies, but you know something?
How has humanity survived all these years without our current Sacramento legislators?
You got it. I mean, it's really kind of crazy. So anyway, we have more piled higher and deeper, as they say. That's it for those reports. Ad hoc committee reports. The special event license ad hoc committee. We are meeting tomorrow. Oh, well, we're meeting tomorrow, and we're probably going to abolish that ordinance completely, just as a heads up. It's a good committee. So with that, we'll go on to the city manager's reports.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Briefly, tonight we're going to begin a series of departmental reports, and these reports will serve as the first step or the beginning of the city's annual budget review and adoption process. Now, as part of this process, each department will give you an overview of their operations, kind of a current status of the department, recent accomplishments, and then a very frank discussion of their current challenges. We're not going to hold back. Then they're going to outline their short-term and long-term objectives. The short-term objectives are those objectives that they would ideally achieve within a 1 to 2 year time frame. The longer-term objectives are within a 3 to 5 year time frame. This evening, we're going to hear from 3 departments. We're going to hear from our police department, our engineering department, and our public works departments. On April 11th, we're going to have presentations from the fire department, our library, the community development department, and the administrative services department. And then on April 25th, I will provide an overview of our recommended priorities that we'll explore through the budget process. So there's a couple things I want you to think about. The overarching view that we're proposing will be safe and clean. We're going to get back to the basics in terms of the way the city does business. We're going to focus on our projects, capital improvement projects, and basic services. And we're going to talk, frankly, about our prospects for economic development. How do we grow the city's budget so that we can offer and provide additional services in the future? So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Chief Dave Brown. It's been kind of Dave's show tonight, so we'll continue with that.
I thought you were done with me. Thank you. It's, again, an honor to just give you an overview of the police department tonight in preparation for the budget process that we're about to enter. The purpose of the police department, in other words, why do we exist? Some of these will be familiar to you. Much of this is from our 5-year strategic plan that we deployed about 18 months ago. Our first priority, strategic priority, is to reduce the fear of crime, or crime and the fear of crime. It's not just reducing the numbers, but reducing the sense of fear in our community and increasing the sense of security. It's important for a lot of reasons, but certainly to improve economic development and to just improve the quality of life of our community. Secondly, to improve safety and quality of life for citizens, businesses, and visitors, certainly purpose of the police department. Looking inwardly to inspire and develop our staff. Engaging in smart policing, always making sure that we're deploying the best technology. You did some of that tonight, to be able to best utilize the resources that we do have and the tax dollars that we are afforded. And lastly, but not least at all, you saw an example of this tonight, to expand partnerships within the Hemet community. In terms of metrics, in other words, and you'll see all of these headings, by the way, with all the departments, but the metrics are basically, what does the playing field look like? What do we have to work with? In 2016, the department responded to 79,111 calls for service. We did that with roughly 70 officers, down from a high of 90 pre-recession. 21 experienced officers have left the Hemet Police Department, actually left the department during the heart of the recession. That's a number that's still staggering when you think about the number of years of experience that we had invested in the community into those experienced officers. All 21 left for financial reasons because they could no longer afford to work for the city of Hemet. And unfortunately, for us, fortunately for some of our neighbors, surrounding communities, they're now reaping the benefits of those highly qualified officers. In 2016, we responded to 582 violent crimes. As a metric for that, we met with the Riverside County Regional Police Chiefs Association last Thursday, and to contrast, the city of Murrieta, roughly 87 sworn officers, 8 detectives in their detective bureau handled less than 50 violent crimes in the same period of time. Stark contrast. We unfortunately took 3,303 property crimes last year, victims of crime in our community, 1,816 mental health crisis calls that you heard about tonight. We cover 27.85 square miles, and we do it with 0.84 officers per 1,000 residents. In terms of accomplishments, we've heard a lot about our 2013 Quality of Life Survey that we commissioned with Cal State San Bernardino Institute for Applied Research. And we got a lot of data from that I'm going to ask you in terms of one of our short-term goals to essentially do that survey again as a catch-up and a baseline to where we are today so that we can measure accomplishments in the future. Our 2014 strategic plan, that's in its second year currently. Our Measure U Immediate Action Plan that you approved on December 13th authorized 8 new police officers and 2 new dispatchers. We swore in one of those this morning and actually introduced 3 new dispatchers to you. 8 patrol vehicles and safety equipment are also included in that, and we'll ask you to authorize those in the near future. Our cadet program, in other words, our farm system, is something that we're very, very proud of. We are still developing that program. Lieutenant Davis, who was here earlier, is working very hard to develop a program to bring to you in a job description. These are 18 to 21-year-olds who are taking college courses, who are interested in law enforcement, who we really want to get into the system and give them an exposure to us and expose us to them as well so that we can kind of get a feel for each other before they reach that magical age of 21 and qualify to apply for a police officer position. And then our community prosecutor. We have not brought a contract prosecutor on yet to deal with those quality of life crimes, but we do anticipate bringing that to you as well in the near future. Lastly, Marie McDonald is here tonight, a member of our Citizen Oversight Committee. I think she's the only one in the audience. But you appointed an independent oversight committee for Measure U dollars, an accomplishment that we were not directly involved in, but certainly are proud of as a city partner. Some of the reality checks for us. The police department faces a number of challenges. None of these are a surprise or new, but our need is to hire 40 officers the next 4 years, and we're competing head-to-head. The chiefs meeting I told you about, we always do a roundtable at the end, and everybody kind of talks about their recruiting challenges and their recruiting successes. The Palm Springs Police Department, about the same size as us, very similar in culture and structure, reported that they were able to hire 20 new police officers in the last 12 months. 20 and 12. The reason for that, and the reason we're struggling, is your second bullet point, market competition. We are competing head-to-head with agencies like Palm Springs, Indio, Riverside, Corona, Murrieta, right here in our community, Banning and Beaumont certainly, for the same small group of qualified, capable, willing candidates. That is a challenge for us that's going to really continue to stare us in the face until we're able to deal with the 32%. We're 32% below market rate in what we pay our police officers. And again, not passing blame here, just simply reiterating the reality of the recession and how severely it hit our community. So a net gain, unfortunately, this is our reality, in experienced police officers since Measure UPass, since November 8th, 2016, is 0. That should be concerning to all of us. It's been almost 6 months, and our net gain is 0. We've hired 3, and we've made a big deal about it. We've celebrated our new experienced police officers. We did with another 26-year Army veteran this morning. Fantastic local guy. But we also lost another officer last week to violence in the workplace. He was the victim of several violent encounters over the last several years and got to a point where physically the doctors told us and told him, unfortunately, he could not perform the duties any longer. So we've essentially gone 1 for 1 over the last 6 months, and that's very concerning to me. We do have a number of recruits in the academy, but I'll remind you they are 18 months from the hire date to the productive date when we're talking about entry-level recruits. Another challenge we face is the consequence of rapid growth in an organization. We're essentially talking about growing the organization by 1/3 in a very short period of time. One of the things that we've learned, not just in law enforcement, but in organizations, is that solid culture, the culture that makes Hemet Police Department who we are, the good things about our work ethic, about the what we attract in terms of quality and integrity, we need to be careful about hiring too fast to where we don't allow our culture to shift to something that's not who we are and what our community expects. We're very acutely aware of that, but it's a challenge as we go forward. And then the depth of the crime issue, which we've talked so many times about over the last several weeks and months. But the economy, AB 109, Prop 47, Prop 57. Short-term priorities in the police department are to establish a special operations bureau, our restoring our community strategy team, ROCKS team, and our crime suppression unit. That has to happen in the next 12 months. We absolutely, there's a heightened expectation in our community, rightfully so, since the passage of Measure U. We've got to get that off the ground. Hiring 20 exceptional lateral police officers. The number 20 is exactly half of 40, and it's our experience that 40 half laterals and half entry level is what is the formula that really helps us to keep that culture as positive as it is. We want to reduce violent crime in the short term by 20% and nuisance crime by 50%. Provide leadership in facilitating homeless solutions. This is not something that we are telling you and our community that we're going to do single-handedly. In fact, we would propose it's not the city's responsibility. A piece of it certainly is. We need to provide the leadership in that discussion. We certainly need to address the criminal behavior, not just of our homeless population, but of our entire community. And we recognize our position as leaders in that. And then to conduct a follow-up quality of life survey. The 2013 survey that I told you about, we'd really like to do a follow-up to that, ask the same questions, contrast them to 2013, see where we are as a baseline, give us an opportunity to measure our effectiveness on the go forward. Lastly, our long-term priorities. One of the conditions of the resolution that you have all signed is that we reach a pinnacle of 1.2 officers per 1,000 residents, that we reduce violent crime by 50% and nuisance crime by 80%, that we reach an 80% neighborhood and shopping safety approval rating. What that means is we in the quality of life survey that we conducted in 2013, we found that only 26% of our residents said that they felt safe walking in their own neighborhood or shopping in Hemet. We want to flip that on its head, and we want to come back and be able to report to you on a long-term priority that 80% of our residents say they feel safe doing those things. 100% is our best mark, and we're going to get there because we've been very clear within our department, and we've heard this from you a number of times. We will become the safest city in the region. That is not a mark that's unattainable if we as a community come together and unite behind this effort. So that's the police department in a nutshell. I appreciate your time.
Does anybody do you have any questions for Dave? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Now we're going to hear from our engineering department. Our acting city engineer and director of engineering services, Nino Abad, is going to deliver our next presentation.
Yeah, but that's because it's IT. None of us know how to do that one.
The department will update for City of Hemet Engineering. Our purpose, we manage city construction activities, issue public right-of-way related permits, process conditions, and plan check development submittals, construction management, inspection of city, private, and other agency construction for conformity standards. So basically, if you're building most things in the city of Hemet, either as a city or as a private entity, you are probably coming to engineering in some form or fashion. Metrics, we have 8 employees. Previously we had 11. We have 1 licensed engineer. Previously we had 4. So 100% of your licensed engineers are speaking to you right now. $7 million worth of projects currently in various stages of design, construction, or jointly administered through other agencies. That's just the capital. 500 plus right-of-way related permits yearly. 50 plus development projects active at any given time, averaging 3 to 4 submittals per project. About 1,500 plus inspections yearly, 6 to 10 per day amongst 2 inspectors. Accomplishments, we recently completed the PMP analysis, which we did a workshop on. The completion of the fiscal year 15-16 pedestrian pathway connectivity projects. We successfully received SSRP funding of $90,000 to allow us to do studies to get future HSIP grants. We also got almost $1 million in actual HSIP grants. Completed complete rewrite of city construction specifications and contracts, reducing various areas of potential cost and risk during the construction process. Our construction documents are a key factor in reducing our risk and saving costs for CIP construction contracts. Working closely with the city attorney's office, who has excellent staff for that. Implemented virtual project manager, web-based construction management. So basically, most of our construction inspection is almost entirely paperless now. Implemented the CIP list for web-based posting of construction documents. So a typical engineering project, that might be $800 just in printing costs, not counting staff time. So we're 100%, almost 100% digital as well, and other departments use that for bidding now as well. Completed construction of CIP 5623, which is the Gilbert Street sewer replacement. Awarded construction contract for CIP 5642 Echo Hills Tank Reline, which is in construction now and should be completed in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Challenges, again, we have limited resources. We only have 1 licensed engineer on staff today. We're only budgeted for 2, which is myself and the future city engineer. We need more coverage in land development, traffic engineering, and water and wastewater. For a city of this size, it's kind of actually unusual to have our own water and sewer. So it's very difficult for 2 engineers to provide all the disciplines of engineering at an effective level. When we don't have them, we still have to provide the service. And so that gets done with consultants, sometimes through the city attorney's office. We have to provide it, but it's not really done efficiently amongst 2 people who can't have, all that knowledge amongst 2 people. Short-term priorities, the 1670 sidewalk and ADA ramp improvement project, that is out to bid now and should be, bid opening is Monday. Complete Stetson Bridge, we talked about that at the previous council meeting. complete the west end drainage plan. We also talked about that. Hopefully we can have that done. Mostly environmental is delaying us at the moment. First quarter of 2018. Construct first year PMP projects, approximately $4 million. We discussed that. Important to note that you're not going to get a staff report. Here's the $4 million PMP project. That's going to come in various types of projects, how we can most efficiently use the money. Plan interim drainage improvements for Seattle Basin. We have a plan for that you will probably see a funding request through our CIP budget process. Hopefully hire 2 or more licensed engineers. Coordination with San Jacinto and RCFC on State Street Storm Drain, Line E2. Complete Sanderson and Acacia Project Sun Edison takeover agreement. I did a update with Planning Commission last week. We hope to have that under completed construction September, October. Bidding June. Long-term priorities, continue the pavement management program, continue yearly sidewalk and ADA improvements, replace equipment at all signals. That's the grant, the HSIP. We have a grant to replace all that for pedestrian access purposes. The side benefit is we get new signal equipment at all the signals, which increases our capability to do other things, adaptive signals, things that will make that more efficient. Create a traffic monitoring center. Again, that is related to above. That will give us some capability to do that. Complete the West End Drainage Plan and use the SSRP grant funding to essentially get more HSIP funds. And with that, do you have any questions?
Any questions? Awesome. Thank you, Nino.
Thank you, Nino. Lastly, I would like to introduce Chris Jensen, who's going to give us an overview of the Public Works Department.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. This has been a tricky thing all night to figure out exactly where to be. So, Chris Jensen, Public Works Director. Happy to be here tonight and give you an overview of my department. You know, I'm proud of my men and women that I've had so many years with, who are incredibly dedicated to the city. The Public Works Department, as you know, we play an important role kind of behind the scenes, but in terms of quality of life and making sure that services that we provide, you don't have to think about. The time you're going to realize that we're there is when something isn't happening like it should. There's a pothole or a tree falls. So as you kind of go through this list, we obviously look to supply safe drinking water to about a third of the city that we service. We are the ones that are taking care of the storm drains to make sure that we're mitigating flooding potential. We inspect, repair, and maintain the sewer infrastructure. We have 8 parks that we maintain. You recently met my 3 fellas who get to do those 56 acres every week. We take care of approximately 4,000 city-owned streetlights, as well as the 42 traffic signals that Nino talked about. We've got the maintenance contract right now that we oversee. We also are doing the maintenance on the roads that Nino and the engineering folks build. We do sidewalk repairs. ROW is right-of-way. Tree trimming. We have our fleet from everything from Public Works to PD to code to fire that is maintained in-house. We've got over 50 city buildings that our staff maintains, and then we also continue to administer the franchise agreement that we have with CR&R. In terms of metrics, we've got 9 divisions: parks, lighting and landscape, streets, water, wastewater, storm drain, equipment maintenance, facilities, and public works administration. There are about anywhere between 3 and 5 kind of functionally separate teams under each of those. So it's really kind of a big span of work that goes on. We've got 76 full-time employees. We previously had about 115, and once upon a time when we had engineering over at the yard, we had about 145 altogether. We currently also have 6 part-time employees that are helping us with our meter replacement in the water department. So temporary part-time employees. And we've got about a $24 million operating budget and about $70 million in capital projects. I know that says capital budget. Part of them are funded, part of them are awaiting funding, and part of them are completely unfunded. But if you look at the fiscal year 16-17 through 2021, Public Works has got about $70 million of capital projects lined out in the next 5 years. Like I said, 56 acres of parks. Our water folks are always busy. Over a 12-month period that we looked at recently, they had 985 requests to turn on service and over 1,600 to turn off, which might be cutoffs for non-payment or somebody just changing their water service from one place to another. And then I know a few of you have had an opportunity to meet my amazing equipment mechanics who pull off the preventative maintenance, which means 3 to 4 times a year, touching 350 vehicles. So they do a great job as well. Lots of divisions. We've had lots of accomplishments. You have heard over the years about Cartograph, which is our work order system, and we are now fully deployed in terms of having the guys be able to not only do their work orders out in the field, but every single thing that they work on is treated like an asset. If they trim a tree, it's tied to that tree. If they fix a fire hydrant, it's tied to that fire hydrant. So why is that important? It helps us determine when we're looking at planning for replacement and whatnot, we're looking to see, much like the pavement management system, what things are really getting the hits on needing the attention. We're fortunate enough to recruit and fill 8 vacancies. A number of those are water. We tend to be the farm team for some of the other agencies around us, so we are kind of constantly in a recruitment for water and sewer folks. We had some major turf replacement projects here at this facility, at City Hall, the library. Those projects, actually, we were awarded funding through Eastern Municipal Water District and their accelerated retrofit program. We were also recognized for the work that we did on that, which was huge. And we moved over to recycled water at 2 of our parks, Dave Oltman Park and Costin Community Park, which is a great thing. You recently heard about our partnership with WRCOG and our opportunity to be the first LED demonstration area here in Southern California in terms of LED lighting that'll help us establish some regional standards and maybe some partnerships for maintenance. And then we also met full compliance with the State of California Water Conservation Order. I'm sorry, but I'm just going to ride this one until it ain't no fun no more, because we were one of 8 cities that was issued an order, and we were the first one to have our order rescinded, which was huge, and we fought hard for that. So that's going to be on my next 10 presentations. Fair warning. Video inspection of 32 miles of sewer main line, which is a lot of sewer main line to have to look at. We obviously revised our water and sewer rates for the first time since 2017, so I'm pulling back to about 2015 on this, but that also feeds into the fact that we're currently looking at our rate structure again. We'll be talking about that. We did secure funding from the Santa Ana Watershed Project Authority. Did I get that right? SAPA. And that will, we think, cover the cost of not only the analysis we're doing now, but the implementation of those rates, should the council choose to do so. We recently transitioned from bi-monthly to monthly water billing. Huge help from the finance department, because that was a big undertaking, and we're probably still feeling some of the pains of that. But it is a foundational piece for making sure that we understand what our consumption from our customers look like. When you have that on a 2-month cycle and you have a hot month and a cold month together, you're really not getting good information about what kind of usage is really happening. We completed the abatement and demolition of the potato sheds, which was the thing that the public clamored for a very long time, because it was probably kind of the city's not happiest building. So that's gone. We've got a nice, fresh, flat piece of land to talk about what we're going to do with next, right? Economic development. And we completed the rehabilitation of well number 16, which was a bit of a surprise when that one fell apart, but we got it all pulled back together. So our challenges, so we actually have, my number is wrong here, we have 9 wells. One of the wells, which failed, was then turned into a booster station where we have an interconnect with one of the other agencies. So we currently have 4 wells out of 9 that we own that are operational that we can run. One of them, number 10, is being re-drilled. Nino's team has been helping us try to get that one back online, which would put us at 5. But we've got 3 wells with nitrate issues and 1 with fluoride issues. We don't run them. They haven't been in the system forever, and we've been working, that's part of our CIP project, working on being able to address that so that we're able to give wells a break, and we're not running the 4 that we have that work 24 hours a day. We have approximately $40 million in deferred maintenance costs. The bulk of that is going to be your water infrastructure. We put it off for a long time. We've also got a lot of facilities issues and some larger pieces of equipment that are well past their voting age. So it's time to replace some things. A big challenge for me, particularly in regards to my management team currently, is out of my 7 people, I've got 3 to 4 who will probably be moving on to their next adventure of retirement in the next 3 to 5 years. That'd be a huge hit to the support that I have now, as well as the history that we've got in Public Works and the technical abilities that we've got here. And so scary for me. I just lost Linda Nixon, who did 19 jobs for us for 18 years, and to replace her took 2 people and a consultant. So it's a big hit. Employee retention, we talked about that, particularly with the water and sewer departments. With the certifications we need, we kind of can't compete in terms of compensation right now. Environmental compliance and unfunded mandates, you guys talked about some of those tonight. We deal with them in every single, not only division in Public Works, but department across the city. AQMD, DFW, you name it, somebody wants to stand in our way and make us pay or prove something before we can do our work. So one of my biggies that really scares me, quite frankly, is the gas tax fund. And for so long, it was something that could just be counted on. And with the change in vehicles being more fuel efficient, with fleets of vehicles changing to new types of alternative fuels, with people buying electric vehicles, and with the price of gas coming down, we are in pretty dire straits. And so we've really made some changes. We've scaled back our operational budgets. You'll see those things through our budget process this next year. But one of the big things, and actually Chief Brown had mentioned as one of his short-term goals, was to really ramp up that ROCKS program. Our right-of-way crew is such a huge support to ROCKS. They are the guys who who collect and inventory and store the property that we pick up, whether it's out of the parks, whether from an arrest, or if it's somebody that just needs to move along. We're obligated to do that. They are also they assist code enforcement quite often in terms of getting things out of the right-of-way. And they're hitting graffiti. There's a lot of blight and a lot of pieces of that ROCKS program that this team that is funded out of gas tax handles. And it's going to be tough for us to continue to make the nexus to pay them from there. It's tough now, but it kind of worked. So that's a big challenge for us. And then obviously we don't have a dedicated grant writer, but someday Councilwoman Wright is going to be so proud of me for the grants I get. You just wait. So short-term priorities. Okay. The deferred maintenance we have in the water department is we're kind of at critical mass. And so we've talked about revenue bonds, and we're in the process of taking a look at those to help us get through those first critical projects that really should have happened 10 years ago. We are going to complete the replacement of all of our radio read meters, so we'll have accurate reads. The acquisition of the SCE street lights and retrofitting to LED, we're pursuing that. We're still looking through that agreement that you approved as to form, I think a couple meetings ago. We are currently in the middle of remodels to some extent at Fire Station 1, the police department, and the library. We also just had the CDBG funding that had some separate fire station upgrades that appear to have been funded through that. We have a giant turf removal projects to complete out at Four Seasons, again funded through EMWD and the Accelerated Retrofit Program. And then obviously we really want to implement the water efficiency rate structure. I think it's going to be a benefit to the entire service area for us. These short-term priorities are all things that are live now. They're all on our plate, and we're in the middle of all of them. Long-term priorities. So I have to share with you, when we were kind of going through this exercise of putting this together, I sat and I stared at this slide, I kid you not, for 2.5 hours, because I realized that we spend so much time living in this reactive state, and there's so much to do, and there's so much undone. I couldn't even think 3 years ahead. I was so frustrated. Right? Did I not share this with you? I got up at 4:30. I sat there and stared at that thing until 7 a.m. But so when I kind of threw these out there, they're really kind of the biggest pieces. We need to retain the employees that we have. Much like retaining the culture, we need to retain the people that we've invested in. We also have to plan for new people to come in as people retire. Identifying and obtaining alternative program funding sources is key. We know it is. We need some help with that. So one of the short-term things was that we want to hire somebody, consultant or however, to really help us get our hands on some of that money that we've been talking about forever. Completing the rest of our water CIP projects would be fantastic. Retrofitting our own city street lights so that we have that uniformity of lighting throughout the city, and we increase that safety level through that. And then development and implementation of a park master plan. So I know this is on long-term priorities. It'll start sooner than the 3-year mark, but, you know, as we walk through things, we've seen the downtown specific plan. It takes a while. You want to do things right. So this really... kind of my big thing that would be, I would add to this list, and it might actually encompass those 5 bullets, would be to do a strategic plan specific to public works, something similar to what fire and PD have done, because I think there's a lot going on, and it's bigger than just my brain trying to figure out what we need. I think that we really need to take a more comprehensive look later on. So. That's what you got. That's what I got.
Thank you very much, Chris. Any questions or comments? Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you. I'd like to thank our department heads for their excellent work tonight. It's food for thought, and we will continue with the remaining departments at your next meeting. In terms of the additional items on City Manager's report, I'd like to share with you that the city submitted our Beyond grant application through the Western Riverside Council of Governments. We're eligible for about $109,000. About 3/4 of that will be for economic development, and about 1/4 of that will be for downtown plan-related improvements and signage. So we're pretty excited. Received an email today that it's been approved in concept, so we're invited to submit a more complete application because they like the things that we're talking about. So we'll keep you posted on that. Absolutely, yes, that'd be great. And then also on WRCOG, to Bonnie's point, in regards to the TUMP program, the TAC has set up an ad hoc committee, and I've been invited to participate on the TUMP ad hoc committee. So I'll keep you posted. We'll look at it from our side, too. The last thing I have is update on future agenda items. We will have Paul Webster from Solutions for Change at your next council meeting. And I believe that's April 11th. That concludes my presentation, Madam.
Okay, very good. Council, do you have any future agenda items you'd like to bring up at this point? No?
I just want to, at 2 meetings ago, I had asked about the water billing policy, if we could take a look at that. I just wanted to see where we're at with that and if we can get that, if we can look at that.
Yes, we actually had a community meeting with an HOA and their representatives today, and we were pretty deep in that. So we'll be bringing that to you at a subsequent meeting.
Any other? Okay. Seeing none, and 9:46. Okay. With that, we are going to adjourn to Tuesday, April 11th, 2017 at 7 p.m. for consideration of items on the agenda at that time, and we are adjourned.